Welcome back to NTV News First Edition. We have something special to bring you this evening as we approach the end of St. John's Pride Week. I sat down with author Karl Wells to talk about his new book, Openly Karl. Wells was known for years as the weatherman on CBC and lived as an openly gay man in St. John's during a time of prosecution for the homosexual community. Here's his advice to today's gay youth and a look back on his experience.
Well, when I was very young, being gay was illegal, and there were gay men who were actually in jail for no other reason than being gay. And I knew that, and I knew that I was probably gay, and it scared the heck out of me. And so, you know, at a certain point in my life, I had to decide, am I going to pretend to be somebody else, pretend to be somebody I'm not, or am I going to be myself and, you know, let the chips fall where they may? And I knew I could never pretend to not be gay. Thankfully, you know, being gay was decriminalized, but still there was a lot of homophobia, a lot of prejudice. But then, you know, we went through the AIDS period, that terrible, terrible epidemic. And, you know, I felt that was something that I could write about from my perspective and what it felt like for us, you know, because it was like having the sword of Damocles over your heads. It was truly a horrible, horrible period. And the homophobia was rampant. And I experienced that in the workplace as well, because of course people knew I was gay. And, you know, I'd walk down the hall at work and people would be leaning over, not wanting to breathe the air, the same air as I was. So, you know, it was very, 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 very difficult.
And then this one, I think probably might go over there.
I want to ask you how you feel that the landscape in the LGBTQ plus community has maybe changed for the better, and if there's anything that you feel has regressed or could be better.
Well, it's funny, I was talking about this the other day. I think there's a divide now between the elder gay community and the younger gay community. And I don't like that. And I think that there needs to be some way to bring both of those communities together, so to speak. You know, again, I wrote about my experience as a baby boomer, so that a lot of the Gen Zs and millennials could read and learn what I went through, what other people of my generation went through. You need to know your history, and you also need to know that a lot of the stuff that we were able to achieve, gay marriage being a biggie, I never thought I'd live long enough to see gay marriage. All of these things were hard won. People marched, and you know, the first pride marches weren't pride marches, they were protest marches that became pride marches. You know, when we were protesting because we didn't have human rights, you know, we were being discriminated against, and we didn't have gay marriage. So all of this was fought for and won, but it could be taken away like that. But our, you know, LGBTQ plus community needs to be vigilant and make sure that, you know, they get out there on the front lines if anything is about to happen that may take away anything that we've won over the years.
And we will have more from my conversation with Karl Wells as we flip through the pages of his memoir, including his battle with mental illness and the moment he realized it was time to retire from the CBC.
When I look at this painting, I can hear that roar of the crowd, you know, and I can hear those skates on the ice.
Before being known as the weatherman on the CBC, Karl Wells flexed his acting muscle through radio plays and satirical characters through the network.
Yes, and good morning to you, Vaz.
Oh, Boney was a warrior, John Francois.
His natural ability to entertain landed him a job as the weather presenter with CBC News in 1978.
So you folks in the Goose Bay area and eastward can expect some sunshine tomorrow.
As technology evolved, so did the weatherman's duties.
My boss and producers came to me and said, we've figured out a way for you to do the weather outdoors.
A seagull just got me.
This is such a great opportunity to actually bring this to community events and bring it to where people are.
I'm about to board the ferry Hamilton Sound, which is making the run these days between Burnside and St. Brendan's Island.
I ended up literally traveling all through this wonderful province.
Hibernia, here we come!
When I got up to the end of my CBC career, I pretty much had a book.
Openly Karl candidly traces the life of Karl Wells from his earliest memories of hiding from a camera to his long-awaited wedding to life partner Larry. The memoir includes highlights from 31 years in the spotlight and doesn't hold back on life behind the scenes as an openly gay man on television during the AIDS epidemic of the 80s and 90s.
My partner, prior to meeting Larry, he died of AIDS. Larry's partner, prior to meeting me, died of AIDS. That's how close it came to us. It was truly a horrible, horrible period. And the homophobia was rampant. And I experienced that in the workplace as well.
Along with the isolation of being openly gay during the AIDS epidemic, in his memoir, Karl Wells talks about fighting another battle, a lonely torment he feared would jeopardize his career.
You know, let's be honest, there was a stigma about mental illness. And this is a mental illness, obsessive compulsive disorder. And I had what are called intrusive thoughts, where these thoughts would come into my head that I was going to do something terrible.
The rush of live television he once loved was replaced with fear and distrust of self.
I'd have this in my head, and I would be trying to get it out of my head, and it would keep coming back and back while I was trying to do the weather. And here I was trying to remember temperatures, where this low was, where this depression was, you know, where this high was, where the cold front is. And this was happening in my head.
The life-altering symptoms of obsessive-compulsive disorder reached a breaking point.
I thought, but I can't go on. I don't want to live anymore. So I said, you know, I've got to seek help. So I did. It worked for me, and I thank God every day. And I take a pill every day and have been now for 20-something years.
Karl Wells ended his career with the CBC in 2007. He says the early retirement was in response to the return of a workplace bully.
There was a producer who, you know, for whatever reason, I personally think there was a deep-seated homophobia there, and I was bullied for quite a while.
A complaint was filed. The producer moved to another building.
And a few years later, they got rid of the building, sold the building, and he ended up back in the same room with me. And it was very uncomfortable. I you know, just passing him in the hallway gave me, you know, the shivers. And whatever joy I had in working kind of dissipated there. And I decided, because I could take early retirement, that I would take an early retirement. And I left. I owe a lot to the audience. I mean, the audience was really good to me. This province is really wonderful that way. It's, you know, they were so supportive.
Openly Karl, a memoir, was published by Breakwater Books and is available now. For NTV News, I'm Amanda Muse.